All right, ladies and gentlemen, hi. Welcome to Fader and Friends. This is episode 2 of the podcast. Thank you guys so much for being here. We're going to get this thing rolling today. Our movie that we're talking about today is Big Trouble in Little China. But first, we're going to have our guest, Billy Lane from the Sacramento area in California. He's going to come on. We're going to talk to him for a little bit, and then we're going to get the movie discussion going. After that, there's a community roundtable that we do towards the end of the podcast. If you guys would like to be a part of the community roundtable, make sure you guys stick out and around through the end of the podcast. We'll put a link in the chat. And if you'd like to come and talk about the movie with us, just kind of, be a part of the live experience, you're more than welcome, more than happy to do that, just as long as we're letting that happen naturally. Okay, so we're going to get this started. Mr. Billy Lane should be in just a minute. He actually just rated us right here. I see all you guys in the chat. Thank you so much for being here, coming on over with the raid from Billy Lane. We're going to get this moving in just a few minutes. My name's DJ Darth Vader. For those of you that are new to the chat, new to the channel, thank you so much. We started this podcast last week, so we're now on episode 2. We are on Apple Music, Spotify, and the video is also on YouTube as well. So if you can search that, Fader and Friends, you can find that wherever you find your podcasts, and you can subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. It's kind of a learning process for everybody, so we're going to go ahead and, kind of roll with the punches. We're going to kind of let everything go and kind of grow and change organically. We've got some works. We got some original music in the works for some show intro things and a lot of extra fun stuff along the way. But my man Billy Lane is ready to go in the green room. He's going to give me the thumbs up, and we're gonna be ready to go, ready to rock. So here's our guest for tonight's podcast, Mr. Billy Lane.
Howdy.
Hey.
Still changing hats here. Give me 1 second, but I'm with you. Thumbs up all the way.
You have a hat? I changed my shirt for today just for you.
Dude, speaking of change my shirt, I am sweaty after that.
You guys were going ham in there. I saw that.
That was a good time. No use for anger. Thanks for bringing in that huge ass raid earlier. And big up, man. How's it going?
I stopped in his chat for a little bit too, and he was bumping too.
Yeah, totally. Catch crushes it, right? Love it.
I'm
over here setting up lights for this right now. This is great.
No worries. So so we're going to talk about so the basic premise of what we're doing here, just for a recap for those of guys that are just catching in on the channel here. Each and every Thursday night from 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific for all my West Coast homies out there. We sit down with someone that I know, either virtually or in real life or whatever. Talk to them about their life, some fun, interesting stories and things like that. Get to know them to a better level. We also kind of parlay that into a movie podcast because we talk about one of their favorite movies. But more importantly, I want to talk to this man right here. That's my guest tonight, is Billy Lane. Yes, that would be you, sir. That would be you. You were out in California. We have never actually met in person, but there's this crazy little thing called COVID-19 for all the future people who may be checking this out. In the future. I have had the honor and privilege of making this man's acquaintance, and we have become fast friends over, I would say, this past 9 months to a year. Why don't you give the quick liner sheet, some liner notes on your backstory up until maybe early childhood, that kind of stuff, and we can kind of move it from there.
Dope. Let me start by fixing something real quick because this is bugging me. Okay.
Are we good to go?
That was bugging me. And then one more thing. I had to free up my headphones. One more thing, and y'all can watch it while I'm doing it live because this is all about live. Check.
Yes, we're doing it live. Right. It is a live podcast, folks. So if you're listening on the audio only and you want to be a part of the live experience, make sure you're coming over to the Twitch channel. But yes, it's a live.
There we go.
That all I could probably just clip out, so it's fine.
Oh, I see what I did. Hang on. There's so many moving parts, y'all. So many moving parts.
For real.
And it's tough to make it look like I don't want to say easy, but it's just tough to have a conversation or do like this kind of stuff, and then also like monitor all the production shit that's going on. That's why there's usually crews that do it to make it easy for the talent to perform. But that's all part of the show. Is what we're doing. My backstory, well, music nerd. I guess, man, I've told the story a few times now, which is dope, and I've never had to tell the story a lot, which is fun. I'm getting better at telling it. Growing up as a kid, we've always had music around. We got several musicians in my family, as far as like parents and grandparents and uncles and stuff like that. A lot of them play an instrument. It was very common for like during family gatherings for somebody to start playing the piano and then somebody to pick up a harmonica and start playing the harmonica. Everybody's clapping along, and like that was like a normal like jam session would like happen a lot growing up. That's something I grew up with. I have uncles play guitar and they jump in and it'd be like a jam session. And so like that was like my musical flavorings as a kid growing up, when I had like no choice about the kind of music that I was to be into or to like or whatever. My parents listened to a lot of Motown. My mom liked a lot of cheesy 80s shit. And so like I'm a product of that.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, fast forward to like school age, you start getting into defining what your generation or what you as an individual like. And I believe like in the 90s there was a weird cross culture of like media and old school culture.
Yeah.
Where like we were all kind of forced to look for like music and movies that we identified with that said this is who we are as an individual because we like this kind of stuff, right? I believe that's kind of been a little bit more homogenized these days, but back then it was really defined. You know what I mean? Like you were like, it was really cliquish,
Sure.
And so like I identified as like a b-boy / like skater, graffiti kid, got into raving, listened to a lot of gangster rap, a lot of East Coast hip hop shit, and started getting into anything that hit, that bumped. You know what I mean?
What time is this?
This is like early 90s by now.
Gotcha.
Late 80s, early 90s. I'm getting into anything that's got that bass and the fun, the break beats and like just the shit that gets me hype. And so kind of follow that sound through things like, I mean, you had Sir Mix-a-Lot type stuff and DJ Magic Mike type stuff back in the day. That was just straight up like 808 shit. And then I started getting into more like of the production element of it. So I started getting into things like Techmaster PEB and Dynamix 2 and like Mantronics and stuff like that. And that was kind of my gateway into things like Juan Atkins and getting into the really electro techno kind of stuff. Eventually that kind of rave sound developed. And I ended up identifying mostly with like a sound to me that like was still kind of street. I never really got into like the I don't know what the nice way to put it. I never crossed a certain line of cheese when it came to the rave, right?
Like it's like the popular, like the more known like kind of things we're talking.
If it was popular or known is one thing, but if it was like a certain style that was just kind of corny to me, I wasn't really down. Like I wanted to like be like I wanted the aggression. I wasn't really into the hype or the fake energy kind of stuff. Kind of thing, you know what I mean?
You still wanted to kind of have that kind of rebellious, like punk rock kind of vibe to anything you're approaching.
Right.
And you still feel that you are that way, like now, like with not just your taste for music, but with other things as well. Do you feel
totally.
like you still have that kind of like in your culture?
It's 100% hasn't changed. Yeah.
And
the DIY attitude definitely hasn't changed either, because to be into this style of music means that you were brushed off as a niche, or as a gimmick or a trend that would fall off, and thrown into like if you were getting like big party acceptance, you were in room 4 of 4. You know what I mean? Like you were never room 1 of 4. You
weren't on the main stage. You were in like the side room. You were the redheaded stepchild or whatever
exactly.
you were doing with that. Let's go back like even a little further before
before DJing and that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
you grew up in Sacramento. You're like born and raised like nonstop.
Oh yeah, totally. I grew up just outside of the city and moved to the city a little bit later. But when I was growing up in Sacramento, it was all about graffiti and b-boy culture in my youth. And so I was all about breakdancing, all about finding like tracks that had the dope breaks in it. And we were all about just trying to stunt on folks. The old spot was the sock hop at the roller skating rink. And I was in an old breakdance crew. Our crew's name was Shuffle-ephagus.
Yes. No. Yes. That's awesome.
Shuffle-ephagus ran shit. No, we didn't really run shit. We were okay. The crew that ran shit was a crew called Floor Rascals back in the day, and they are still to this day like honored as like legends in Sacramento as far as b-boying goes.
Cool.
And also like recognized on like a West Coast b-boy legendary status as well. So big up to Floor Rascals. I was b-boy into like before raving, it was just like dances at the roller skating rink and like things like that. And those are my early influences on like the DJ dance disco kind of culture, you know what I mean? Growing up in Sacramento, we had all kinds of boring shit that we did. Played video games a lot. I was big into Super Nintendo and regular Nintendo. I remember when I got my NES and Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Yes.
My brain is programmed for that game still. I can probably even though I haven't touched the game in a while, I could probably still get to at least Soda Popinski, but probably all the way to Super Macho Man on one person without dying. Everything about that game is programmed into my head.
It's all muscle memory, right?
Dude, yeah. Even the 007 373 5963 is the code to Tyson. Like that kind of
come, yeah.
Yeah. It's like that's the code, right? I was waiting for it to chat. No one's throwing, yeah. Billy still cheats. It's still, dude, Tyson is hard as fuck. Still. Yeah. Even if you like are playing an emulator or some other shit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Soda Pop
fucks me up. You see like the guy in the corner that's like the little giveaway that means he's gonna bop and he's gonna throw it, then even still, you can still get caught and you get got for Mike Tyson for real.
And one punch done. Goes no.
You can catch those hands, those digital hands for real. Right. I love that. Like I was growing up, I was like into video games like a lot. Like I was kind of sick as a kid. So I played sports, but like I was kind of like well-rounded, but I loved playing video games. Love the Street Fighter in the arcades. Love that stuff. So that's, I think, one of the things that bonded us like real quick was like, oh wait, you're down with Street Fighter? Oh, I love Street Fighter too.
Fuck yeah. There was two places in my neighborhood. One of them was Rico's Pizza and the other one was Birdcage Walk Arcade. And Rico's Pizza is where like the scrubs played, where we were trying to like practice and get good, right? And the dope thing about Rico's Pizza was one of the Street Fighter. They had like a couple of them. One of the Street Fighter games, it was like an old one that was like the first one that they got. You could actually pound out a nickel to the size of a quarter and put it into the slot, and it would take it. Nice. And so I spent many of summer afternoons just banging on nickels in the driveway. And my dad is like wondering like, what the hell?
What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing? Hammering nickels with right now? Like, what's going on? Don't worry about it, Dad. We got it covered.
I'm saving you 20 cents right here.
Yeah, exactly. I'm getting 5 for 1. And totally committing a federal crime. Nickelmania. I remember that totally digit. Nickelmania was a little bit further away from me. But a lot of the cats I know like to go to Nickelmania. The arcade by me was Rico's Pizza, and then Rico's and Elkhorn. You know it. Jeannie knows it. And then if we wanted to show our shit, then you went to Birdcage. Birdcage is where they had the tournaments. Birdcage is where like you showed and proved, right? And they had like the Street Fighter arcades with the extra TV on top for those that were like lurking behind so they can watch the game as well. Yeah. And that was where like you what up, Aiden Scott? Appreciate you, brother. That was where you knew if you had the goods or not, and I never had the goods. Like there was people that were way better than me.
Yeah.
At Birdcage for sure. And that was all the way the real gangsters were at Birdcage. That was all the way through Mortal Kombat and Killer Instinct.
Yes.
Game. The craze, all those crazes like happened at Birdcage as well.
I remember being in an arcade in Italy when I was living in Italy for a couple of years. When my stepfather was in the military, we'd go there and they'd have a Street Fighter, they'd have a Mortal Kombat, they had like a Killer Instinct. I remember just slamming quarters on the glass, bro, just like grinding in and out, putting it in. It was like that was like such a good time. That was like 95, 96-ish around that time. Super dope. I loved it.
That was right at the end. Like I late 90s. I want to say basically when I got my license to drive. So I'll say like when I was 16. That was when all of that ended for me. And I started driving to Oakland to go to raves and shit instead.
Yeah.
Before, like I had to like sneak out of the house and go to raves at this place called The Grind in West Sac. It was a skate park.
Cool.
Junior high, going to that shit was amazing. A lot of that music that I was playing a second ago was like from that era.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's dope. I remember one of my first music exposure experiences was around that time too. Is that I was living overseas in a foreign country, and the American dollar still meant something. So I could go as a young teenage kid and get into mad trouble. And I don't know if my mom's listening on the podcast right now or whatever, but earmuffs. I got into some trouble that probably she doesn't even know about. We went and snuck in like full blown like legit nightclubs as a young teenage kid with American money. They did not give a fuck if I bought cigarettes. I could buy booze. I could go and wild out as like a young teenage kid, and I did that. I remember going to there's this big club. It's like multi-floors in different areas and rooms and everything like we were talking about before. One, you go in and you're hearing like the Euro house and the dance and like all that shit. Then you go off to the room that's like dark and it's like brick and they're playing fucking This Is How We Do It. And then like, it's all this American like hip hop and all that good shit. Like that was one of my first exposures to like just music in a live kind of performance setting. I fucking loved it, bro. I loved it.
That was the sock hop for us. Roller King in Roseville was my my spot for that, early spot for that. A lot of West Coast, the roller skating rinks after dark were youth nightclubs. Like that's what they did to keep the kids off the streets, right? There was another place also that was under 18. Like if you were over 18, you weren't allowed in, right? It was like it was under 18 spots, lock-ins, exactly, Digit. Another spot that wasn't quite a lock-in, Naughty Vibes just threw it up, was a place called the Amazon. And the Amazon was dope too. That was an early 90s spot. Big up Charisma, big up Scott Martinson, all those cats, man. That was dope. David X, Eddie Adul. I don't want to get too much into like regional shit, but we used to go to like roller skating rinks as our early parties, and then it as we got older, we started finding other stuff. But getting before that, you said you wanted to touch a little bit before that.
Just like what were you around the time like pre-DJ Billy Lane, what were you doing around that time as far as like some of your influences for that stuff? What were you doing for like working and like your what was your first job? Like what were your, because we have a lot in common, so I'm wondering if that, like, because there are things that I obviously don't know about you that I want to, and that's the whole purpose of like bringing my friends in here. Like, what was your first job? Like, what were your some of your first like things that you were doing?
My first job was at Burger King, and I got my my worker's permit at 15 years old, because I have a late birthday, right? My birthday is in November, and so I was either you get held back or you're really young for your high school year, right? So I was young, graduated at just turned 17, and I graduated, right?
Wow.
So the at when everyone's getting their workers permit, when they're 16, I'm still 15, but all of my friends are applying, right? And so, me being the forgery expert that I am, thought it would be wise to just take a year away on my application for my work permit,
Wow.
and smooth it right by the office, because they wouldn't know the difference because all of my friends are in the same class. It's close enough, right?
Yeah.
So the Antelope Burger King. I got my first worker's permit at 15, and big up Billy Yarbrough. It was right by a really famous Citrus Heights skater spot, and all the skaters used to hang out and smoke weed in the parking lot at that Burger King. And we were terrible. It was an amazing first job, but you did not want to eat there, and it was like a really bad restaurant.
So when did you start getting into DJing?
I start getting into DJing right around the breakdancing stuff, because I'm like already collecting music. My buddy Andrew and I, big up to Andrew Moiko, Drumo, still a DJ out of San Jose. We used to be the people that would sneak out of the house and go to Tower Records, and stand in line for the new release that comes out Tuesday morning at midnight, right? Tower would hold on to, they would get the stuff on Monday, and then you would have to stand in line, and if you were lucky enough, you would get the new release when they opened up the fucking window at midnight, and we're selling off the shit at midnight. I don't know if you guys remember that. So we used to do that. We used to sneak out and like get new music, and we were always like trying to one up each other. Like I would buy some new shit and he would buy some new shit, and we'd always like play it in our cars. We always had stereos in our cars, ghetto rigged, like installing our own Alpines with home speakers in the trunk kind of shit. Oh,
sure, for sure.
And like we would always try to bust on each other. There's people that I went to high school with in the chat right now that know exactly what I'm talking about.
I did that too. I made my I worked at Radio Shack right out of inside of high school, and I would go and I bought the conversion kit for the fucking aftermarket stereo and the woofer boxes and hooked up all that stuff. Man, I was knee deep in that too, for real.
So you couldn't afford the Rockford Fosgate, so you put the Fisher home speaker in the trunk and you get the fucking go, dude.
I put the Optimus or whatever the fuck that Radio Shack brand was. I'm like, wait, I get a discount on this? Yeah, I'm gonna do this, instead. Yeah, that's fine.
Right?
100%. Yeah.
Big up Jenny 916. Yeah, she knows about Drumo. So Drumo, nobody calls him Andrew. He goes by Drew, but I call him Andrew because we've known each other that long. So Drumo and I, Andrew Moiko and I, we were definitely like brothers in arms when it came to being record store hounds at first, right? And then it was like cassettes and CDs, not really vinyl. And then I got my first job at a place called CD Research in Davis, which was a record store in Davis / head shop. Tobacco use only. We sell water pipes, not bongs. If you say bong, you're getting kicked the fuck out of the shop, kind of shop back in the day. This is like late 90s. And California being very early to the medical marijuana thing. But, back then you could not say medical marijuana. You couldn't say anything like that. It was for tobacco use, water pipes, not bongs. So in any case, I used to sell screens out of that shop and music sometimes. And there was it was actually a record store. And the cool thing about that record store, this is what actually got me into really, really deep into music, as far as DJing outside of just music that I like, or collecting, or DJing meaning collecting music more than just what I like, but actually being turned on to stuff outside of my bubble, so to speak.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Was working at this record shop, because the way that it worked was at CD Research, you walk up to a counter, like a bar, and all the music is behind the counter. And you walk up to a CD player with a binder, and the binder was filled. The front page would have this week's new releases, and then they had this binder sorted by either artist, genre, or title, or album name. And you can look for specific stuff and then ask your bartender, your music tender, for the album, right? And so it was my job to not only field that request, but also be able to say, oh, you like this artist, then you'll like this, and this as well. and stack
You're
them.
a music sommelier, if you will.
Right. And so like and the whole gimmick of the store was you can listen to it before you buy it. We always had a listening copy, and if you liked it, we had a sealed copy that you can buy, right? And back then, listening to the CD before you can buy it is a fucking big deal. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah,
but like,
right, for real.
yeah. And so like this is in a college town. And so like we're getting college taste in music, which is not just like a normal record store. It's like a younger demographic, right? And so the owner of this record store, big up Ray, and if Ray, he still comes and visits me every now and then. Actually, on like he's been on Twitch, he visits me on Facebook. Big up Ray, OG. He purposely, when he ran this record shop, this is CD research still, in a way that he staffed it with 2 people, and if one person was into one style of music, the other person that worked with them was absolutely not into that style of music, also.
That's cool.
So you were forced to like take turns playing music in the shop, kind of like the movies you see where they're fighting over what to play in the shop and shit like that.
Yeah. Like Empire Records, for sure.
Like Empire Records, right? So we would take turns like fighting over what to play in the shop, and we would be influenced by like stuff that we would never listen to begin with, right? And like that kind of like learned me on like different styles of music, working with these different people. And then on top of it, I know I'm getting long-winded on this. On top of it, we had these billboards that were posted around the record shop. I don't know if you guys remember old record shops, but like there's records everywhere, there's promos everywhere. It's a mess usually. It's like it's there's posters and all kinds of advertisements and like, you know, kind of shit going on. So we had these chalkboards, and every week we had to put on our top 10 releases that we liked for that week. And so if somebody came into the shop and they asked for a certain style of music, I'd be like, oh, that's the kind of music that so-and-so's into. And I look over to their board and be like, okay, so if they're asking for this, they're gonna want to hear this, this, and this. And I would look like a total expert, but I'm really just fucking going by the cliff notes that are like all around me, right? And Ray is a genius for that, like total genius for that. So yeah, the shop was great, and that's when I first started DJing outside of just like playing music for friends and not really trying to mix or being like a performer or anything like that. Because the record shop also had a DJ service, and so my first gigs were not raves, was not jungle, it was mobile DJing for like college parties and things like that. That was coming business that came to the record shop because of, you know, we're known for having all the music. They're gonna see, can you come and play that music for us? You know what I mean? Like
yes. That was like my first couple of DJ gigs too, because I was always the kid that had the music, because my father is in the radio business still to this day. He's a record consultant. I know, being in radio yourself, you know what that is. You're the middle
galore, dude.
Yeah, dude, you're the middleman between the radio stations and the record label. So you get promos, singles, you get all the shit before it's come out, right? You know, like, because they want to be playing those 10 songs, those 15 songs, you know, or whatever, that are doing that, right? So I used to go visit my dad when I was younger, and I'd go, you know, hit up his office, his closet. I was like, what can I have? He's like, that whole closet in there, you can have whatever you want in there. So we're talking like promo-only CDs, like early promo-only CDs. I used to have promotional cassettes. Like that weren't even like genre like group. They were just like, these are the fucking bangers that are coming
March
out
of
or whatever
year.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So I take that, I take all these singles, whatever. I'd come home, I'd have all the music. My friends would hit me up and say, yo, we're having a birthday party. You know, come bring your music, you know,
You
whatever.
all this fucking shit, right?
It was perfect. And like, that's one of my first DJ gigs, which is funny, is because my mom helped me DJ it, because she helped me set up the shit. This is no professional beat matching, mixing, or whatever. This is like playing tracks, fading up, fading down, or whatever into the next thing, right? So this is like home stereo carpet speakers with a 5-disc CD changer on one side, a Radio Shack mixer in the middle, and like a fucking Sony Walkman on the other side. This is no pro level shit. This is just me chilling with like homies, and then like, you know, and playing music, and that's it. And that's literally how like I got my shit started. And what's funny that you mentioned, you know, with your job at the record store doing that, my mom actually, fast forward a little bit, we moved out to the East Coast. My mom took like a second job working at like Blockbuster, and she was working like late, you know, part-time, like late nights and doing stuff. I would go after school and be out of my like part-time job too, and just go to Blockbuster, which is like 3 doors down from like where I was working, and go chill with my mom. And I go into Blockbuster and literally start sommeliering movies for people. Because like I always love movies, always kind of like been around media, so I would see it. Yeah, so like someone would be like, "Hey, I'm kind of looking for that movie. It's like this, blah blah blah." He's like, and I'd be like, "Oh, you like this movie? All right, so next time, grab that," and I'd stack them. Suggested selling, all that like detailed background is like check out this movie next, like this movie, and your next one, or maybe grab it because it's like a 5-day rental, so you can get both or whatever, and blah blah blah. I wasn't even on the fucking payroll. I just loved movies and like that. Right. It's just exactly, which is probably one of the reasons why we're doing this is because I love fucking movies.
It's funny is so we're in the record store. I'm still chronological here with you. By the way, awesome. And so I start to discover that while I'm at the record shop and DJing for these parties, I'm starting to feel like it's not a full fulfillment for me. And I'm starting to like play these parties where I'm playing music that I don't identify with. And I'm just kind of like feeling like there's got to be something more to it, especially like when I have a family full of musicians that are kind of like smirking at the idea of DJing. And even though they're all music collectors and record collectors also, right? Yeah. And so
but it's live instrumentation or get the fuck out like that.
Right. I get it. Humanity hasn't changed, bro. That's what the sync button is now. But I digress. In case, so I started to get into music that the store wasn't necessarily carrying, and so I started to have less interest in that job because it wasn't really, I was kind of growing out of that spot basically. And so I leave the record shop and I forget what I did for a job. I think I was working as a waiter or something like that. And I was buying records at these record shops. And by this time I'm like wanting to keep it real DJ, right? I start doing this show on an internet radio station called KCBL, and it's not internet radio, sorry, a community radio station. This is before the internet. Let me clarify. A community radio station.
We're old people, just so if you're listening to this audio only, we are old. Go ahead.
Yeah. So a community radio station. So in other words, this was a radio station that had a very small radius that it could pick up, maybe a couple of miles tops. And anybody who was there donated their time to be there, as well as paid money for their time slot. Like this is like community radio at its finest, right? And in the same studio as the community radio station was the public access television station as well. And for those of you who are not familiar with public access, that was Twitch in the 20th century.
Yes, for real.
So any case, I'm in the community radio station, and I'm starting to play like DJ music that I want to play on this community radio show called The Unknown Future, and it's mostly like gangster rap and Wu-Tang kind of West or East Coast hip hop shit. And then I would do this section in the show that I called The Bundle of Jungle, and it was like a 30-minute, 20-minute section of like old breakbeat hardcore records and like eventually like jungle records and drum and bass records. It's all the same shit. It's just kind of defining a year. The Bundle of Jungle in the Unknown Future was like the beginning of me like spinning drum and bass and being known as like a jungle DJ here in town. Yeah. And I had one person who was in my audience back then, and that was DJ M, aka Rude Boy Soldier here on Twitch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, totally. And you could call into the station. And I don't know about many of you that have been like a college radio or community radio, but when you call, there's like a strobe light that flashes that tells you when there's a caller. Because
something's happening, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so he would call. The first time he called and the strobe light happened, it tripped me out. I didn't know what it was. And the guy that was like my mentor there, he's like, "Yo, that means you have a phone call. Somebody's actually listening to you." Like nobody calls. Like nobody calls. And so I pick up the phone. I'm like, hello? He's like, dude, you're supposed to say KCBL, blah, blah. Like, oh yeah, KCBL. Like, he's like trying to train me, right? And it was, lo and behold, it was Rude Boy Soldier, aka DJing, and we've been great friends ever since.
That's dope. That's such a good story.
And so, like, yeah, The Unknown Future was a fun radio show. We did a lot of funny shit. We did skits. We did all kinds of crazy shit. A lot of writing, early radio writing that I do started there. By the way, I did not intentionally make my green screen the same color as your color scheme. That's kind of amazing.
It's awesome. Yeah. That works. Yeah. Teal's my jam. Black and teal. That's my
word up.
That's my jam.
So while I'm digging for records and looking for records, and I'm starting to get more into jungle, I'm looking for record stores to find jungle at. I discover a couple without getting too long-winded because we've been talking for a while. I found Imagine Music, and that was where I ended up becoming like this my home. And big up James, and big up Jay Drixie, big up Eddie Abdul. We used to hold that place fucking down. And Imagine Music was the shop, and we had a dope record selection, dope clientele, and we created a real community, like a organic old school community started from that record shop. And honestly, it's still showing today in the chat right now.
Right. Yeah. That's what. Yeah. If I can speak on it as someone that is never. Well, have I? I don't think I've ever been to Sacramento. I've been out and all up and down California, but I don't think I've ever been there. The love and the community that like it surrounds you on this platform, and just in general with what I see in social media, I think is awesome. So like everybody that like tunes in and shows up and like is just there for you like the whole entire time. It's like it's such a good thing to see as somebody that's like an outside like observer. I think it's awesome how much they're there for you like no matter what. I think it's huge.
Appreciate that. Those are the homies, man. Big up Elliot Estes. Elliot Estes' mom bought his first pair of turntables from me. And she's an amazing woman. Appreciate you, man. Big up Elliot Estes. That's the true homie right there. And his family is beautiful. Big up your mom's. Your mom's is Entity's wife, and I was their wedding DJ.
It's awesome.
And it was an incredible time. Another story for the time. But yeah, the record store was ground zero, and it was our internet, right? That was where we figured it out, and we had no choice because there's nowhere else to go. It's amazing. Like you're talking about the stay power that it has, and the real connections that we've had. And I've tried to make it a point. I don't say I very often, but I've tried to make it a point to at least once a year get us all together, make an attempt to get us all together and have a laugh to this day. So we started 916 Junglist as a promotion in 1998, and it's been all kinds of things. But one thing that it hasn't been is gone. We've maintained presence, which is I'm really proud of that, honestly. So. Big up to all y'all in the chat. That's because of y'all. So
I don't know how we're gonna be able to segue kind of into this, but let's kind of move into trying to figure out where we can go from here as it pertains to maybe other media intake and other things kind of that have kind of been around you that is maybe along the media sides of things, as far as, movies and that kind of it goes, TV shows and stuff that you were kind of, into as a youth that may have kind of helped you along with, the B-boy kind of stuff.
Definitely. And as a 90s B-boy, I'm not old enough to be an 80s B-boy. As a 90s B-boy, we watched 80s breakdance movies and they were already old then, right? Yeah. Breaking Two Electric Boogaloo, you know what I mean? Like the list goes on and on and on, obviously. And then there was, and we were also big into just the movies that we grew up with. And there's a specific, like PG-13 happened in our childhood, You realize that, right?
Yeah.
And so there were movies that were PG growing up that would probably teeter the line of PG to PG-13 now.
Right.
And a lot of those movies like dug deep into us that pushed that line. I would say, again, when it comes to like violence or when it comes to just being a teenager and like the teenager humor shit, saying shit, stuff like that. Like Goonies is an example. The first revision of E.T. And like Neverending Story, all the Jim Henson shit, including like The Hobbit, or not The Hobbit, but Dark Crystal, and stuff like that. Like those were all like pushing it, right? And so and there would be some like people that would say that like that's too much for my kid these days in a lot of ways, right?
I think so. I think so.
And so Legend. But yeah, so like growing up with those movies, like I identify with a specific generation that also grew up with those movies. I love like corny 80s hero's journey movies, like Rad and fucking, you know what I mean? Like just like fucking
The Last Dragon and
The Last Dragon. Yes.
Oh my god, I love that movie so much. Yeah.
Yes.
All that stuff.
Yeah, the corny writing, the funny montages where they got to paint and fix up the house, like you know what I mean? Like any of that shit. Like I'm fucking down, dude. Like I grew up with all of those. Rad. Yeah, you know it. Time Bandits, fuck yeah. Adventures in Babysitting, you know it, man. Straight up. Don't tell me hitter's dead even.
Show enough.
Right. Show enough.
All right, so let's get into your pick, which does fall into that kind of hero's journey, kind of fun, doesn't take itself too seriously, but kind of did, for the time period of what it is now, which is Big Trouble in Little China. Can you speak to me a little bit about why you chose this movie out of all the, the realm of possibilities? Why this one?
One of the reasons, and Noob-tastic Gaming almost got it right. Not the wire fights, but the characters in the movie. Like this is a movie from my early childhood, right? This is like late 80s when this movie came out.
Yeah, 1986.
Right? 86, right? And so this is a movie from my childhood. Now fast forward 5 or so, was it maybe 6 or so years to 1992, 93, and you've got Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat coming out, and they've got dudes that shoot lightning out of their hands and fucking crazy like beast characters and shit. And I'm like, yo, that's straight out of Big Trouble in Little China. Yo, that's another like all these like different characters like reminded me of that movie. And so having that tie back between that 6-year gap, from that point forward, like whenever that movie came on TV, I'm stopping and watching. Like if I see it like in the fast forward a little bit later, if I see it in the cable menu, when I'm scrolling through the cable menu, who does that anymore? I'm stopping and watching, right? Like
all the rewatchability, right?
Right, and the quotability of it, and you could pop in at any scene, and you're right. I'm ready to go. Like I'm right into the adventure. I don't care. I know exactly what's up. You know what I mean? And Kung Lao, Shang Tsung, like they're all like characters.
We'll definitely talk about that in a little bit, because I've got some little bit of something prepared for that. Because let's just get into it right now. Those characters like Raiden, like Shang Tsung, are directly inspired from this movie. I wanted to get into it later, but it's not like, they kind of like, they are direct reflections. There's been interviews and things that have been told that Shang Tsung specifically and Raiden are exact. They are birthed from this movie. Right.
So go ahead. Oh, it's like Ed Boon or whatever his name is. Noob Saibot spelling is the spelling backwards of the two developers. Yeah. And I can only remember Boone because I don't know what Saibot Tobias or whatever. Yeah.
That guy.
But straight up like those characters are straight up modeled after Big Trouble in Little China. And how could you not, as a kid who grew up with that movie and then seeing it in a video game, just be like, this is the fucking coolest shit ever. You know what I mean?
Right.
Especially when like the lightning blows up the person's head for the fatality and shit. You're like so fucking down, right? That's incredible. That's probably like what solidified that movie's stay power to me. And then another thing I really like is there's one particular fight scene. It's actually towards the beginning of the movie when he's rolling in with the Pork Chop Express and they pull into the alley and there's that big fucking gang fight in the beginning.
Yeah.
And
the funeral procession.
Yeah, exactly. There's a funeral, and then it starts off as a gunfight, and then the gunfight settles, and they all come out and they got the, you know what I mean? And they're oh, dude, that is probably like seriously like one of the dopest fight scenes, and like for a couple of reasons. One is because they do the crazy special effects, but then two, like if you're into like martial arts, there's like a little teeny cutscenes every now and then where they show the small game of martial arts, like a person who knows how to like counter punch and shit like that, like the art of it, right? But then there's the flying shit too, like the over the top shit too, like such a dope fight scene. Like it's an incredible fight scene.
All right, so I'm gonna pull the trailer up. Let's watch the trailer with everyone in the chat can watch it, and then we'll kind of get into it like with that stuff after, because John Carpenter did the damn thing for this movie. I
love it.
So let's go back to the kind of that intro of that of this movie, and what's funny, what I liked about it is that the opening scene of the movie wasn't originally supposed to be there. It opens with Egg in like the lawyer's office, and he's talking to that, right? He's
asking him to tell the story.
Yeah, so like that's exactly the point. Is that there? He's kind of like retelling the story of what happens, and which I think is interesting is that on our last episode with The Princess Bride, it is that same similar kind of thing, that there's a narrator, not really a narrator, but there's a story within a story, or it's taken out of time, so you can kind of see that too, which I thought was like a neat, which was a cool kind of tie into.
He ties it back together at the end too.
Yeah, right, 100%.
Yeah, and the one thing that John Carpenter was saying when they were talking about the rewriting of the story was that actually Big Trouble in Little China was originally written as a Western.
Yeah.
And the horse rides into town, the horse gets stolen, and then he has to go into the seedy underworld in order to get his horse back. Or rides his horse into town, right? And so yeah, the story was rewritten in this fashion, but the original story was written as a Western, which I thought was pretty cool.
I agree 100%. Yeah, I love that they took this take on it. It's just something that's different. It was something cool, but it wasn't the only one of its time that was out around the same time that went from like action movie with a little bit of comedy, martial arts movie with that Asian kind of mysticism, because there's literally a movie that they had to rush through production of this movie to get it out into theaters ahead of time, and that would be The Golden Child, that Eddie Murphy movie.
Yep. And
that was they were like in direct competition, which I think is also crazy interesting, is because Lopan is in the actor that played David Lopan is in both. He's in both movies.
And what ended up happening, spoiler y'all, is Aliens took the whole fucking prize that year. Aliens just wiped it all out. Yeah. They were expecting Big Trouble in Little China to be a blockbuster, and it wasn't. It was not a movie success. It was a home video success, and they made that very clear in their commentary too. That they had, it was a big budget movie, but they lost out to Aliens big time in the theaters that year, and it was a VHS success. Exactly.
I think I was reading that Clint Eastwood was one of the people that was possibly in the running to be for Jack Burton.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't get any of that as far as who was cast or who was potentially cast. They didn't really talk about that in the commentary, but that'd be amazing to think about Clint Eastwood. Since it's originally written as a Western, You know what I mean? So I could see how that could be considered.
The studio, it's who the studio chose. John Carpenter only wanted to work with Kurt Russell because he's going to be he later does it, even though more with the Snake Plissken character. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But like John Carpenter only wanted to work with him, but I mean he ended up getting his way. But the studio suggested. Now, can you imagine this? Around this time, the studio suggested Jack Nicholson or Clint Eastwood as like the main character in this movie. Right?
I couldn't see anybody else but Kurt Russell, honestly. And I think because there has to be a Jack Nicholson, maybe, because there has to be a level of not taking your shit seriously in order to pull it off. Because if you watch Big Trouble in Little China, the weird thing about Big Trouble in Little China is the lead, if you think about it, is actually the supporting actor. Yep, the hero is the supporting actor in this movie, and it's actually his buddy who does all the fucking heavy lifting throughout the whole fucking movie, right? Like,
yeah, Wang Chi.
Yeah, he knows all about the underground. He knows all about the history. He's like, he knows how to fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's like the true hero in the movie. Yeah. But Kurt Russell has to play this like gullible, like American hero, and he fucking nailed it. Exactly. Yeah, he nailed it.
I think that was one of the things that they set out to do, is to kind of do the inverse of the traditional scenario with action films in that sense, because you have guys like and even older, like Green Lantern, with Kato, like Bruce Lee is the fucking man, but yet he's the guy that goes and gets the car. He gets out of trouble, but he's not the hero. You know what I mean? So
it's still spilling over from World War II. Honestly, it's still spilling over from World War II. The buck teeth, the China hats, the fucking, you know what I mean? That look, that Asian racism existed, and that Asian typecasting existed, right? And so Big Trouble in Little China was definitely trying to bring light to Asian mysticism in a way that showed the ignorance of Western's opinions on it. And I thought that was brilliant, a brilliant depiction of that. John Carpenter said he still got pushback from the Asian community from it, but it wasn't like, there wasn't an internet back then, so I'm not sure the way.
There wasn't message boards or anything. There wasn't Twitter. Yeah, exactly. Jackie Chan was supposed to be, was John Carpenter's first choice for Wang Chi for that character role.
That guy was just an actor too. He didn't even know martial arts, and he just knew how to fucking channel the look, right? And if you look at the cut shots, it's like his fight scenes are aside from the sword fights.
Yeah.
He everything else was a lot of cutting, cut magic, but the sword fights, he actually had to learn. He took it seriously, and they said that he carried a little sword around with him everywhere, and like constantly was practicing his form because he wanted to do it. He wanted to
do it justice, right?
Yeah.
One of the other things that I loved about this movie, and like it doesn't have anything to do with almost any of the main cast members in this thing. If you look at like that first the first fight scene where they're in the streets and they have the funeral procession turned into that big gunfight, kung fu battle, karate battle, whatever.
And what's interesting in that is unlike a lot of Asian tales, sorry to cut you off, at that point in the beginning of the fight, you're not sure who is good or bad.
Yeah, yet. Right.
And that's a unique thing, because usually that's well defined in Asian culture. Like, it's like well defined who is good and who is bad, and who you're rooting for before the actual fighting happens. So that's a little bit off to do that. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I love the guys that are actually there, that are in the battle and that are in the fight. There are like a litany of characters, a litany of guys that you look and you see and we're like, yeah, like that dude's the Asian bad guy for like the 80s. Period.
All the Shaw Brothers movies. The Big Up Golden Child, he actually has a Shaw Brothers homage on his layout. But yeah, like Saturday afternoon after the Saturday morning cartoons, Saturday afternoon was Kung Fu, and like it was all Shaw Brothers films and shit, and like all those guys, like from all those scenes, including the Three Storms, they're all like fucking huge in China cinema for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a guy that's there that's credited in this movie. His name's Al Leong. He goes on to being like a stunt director and a stunt actor and stuff too. He's in like Bill and Ted's. He's in Die Hard. He's in Lethal Weapon, and he's just like those. You just see like, if there's an Asian looking bad dude that can play a Chinese triad or a Japanese yakuza or whatever, they're not hell bent on authenticity, but they need, an Asian looking dude that knows his shit. They're hitting up one of those 3 or 4 guys, and that like seeing them in like multiple different movies, I'll go and be honest, like with setting up and reviewing for this movie. I had seen Princess Bride, once or twice beforehand. I have never seen this movie from start to finish ever. And I love movies. I had seen snippets and clips and caught it, while it was on TV and this or that. But sitting down and watching it from start to finish, I had never seen this before. So watching, those smaller scenes that, Kurt Russell's not in, or, that to see those things, I was like, oh wow, like I know that dude. It was such a good thing to watch.
John Carpenter said they took the casting very, very seriously because they wanted that shit to be real, and they also wanted to pay homage to the, give some cash on a big budget film to some of these stars that are working for nothing, sacrificing their bodies for nothing in Chinese cinema. He purposely wanted to give them a big break, give them the big American ticket, pay them real money to do what they do well, right? That was his whole thing about that. And he wanted to get the best of the best, and he was like proudly touting that. In the commentary, it was like, yeah, we got the number ones, man. We wanted the good guys, and it was dope, and we wanted to pay him well, hook him up, give him that spoiling treatment that they never really got in their normal movie making careers, which is dope.
I thoroughly enjoyed, like, I don't want to say cheese because that's not true, because the movie's cool. And I enjoyed it, but like there is some kind of, like, for the lack of a better term, it's campy. It's campy for sure. Yep. And I like, the having, great Kim Cattrall in there, I thought was cool, but I just felt that like a lot of what she was doing was just like, it was really hollow, and it was just kind of like, they could have put a cardboard cutout of somebody at some point in there and just did it. I thought that, like, for her to be like the leading lady of whatever the movie is, like, she's especially like super forgettable.
The expert lawyer that's supposed to like understand the human trafficking ins and outs that are going on in San Francisco. There was a little bit of inconsistencies in her character. I thought her journalist companion pulled it off really well. But as far as like her being a strong authority in like the seedy underworld, they definitely there's a lot of inconsistencies in her character. I agree.
I just don't think she wasn't strong enough.
Right.
Well,
right.
I mean, there are great.
It's kind of consistent with 80s movie writing, though.
It is true, because we talked about that like, even, with the Princess Bride, that like, Buttercup was like kind of, whatever, like they were, it wasn't very convincing that, she was doing what she was doing with, authority or whatever. Is there any other, pieces?
Oh, Kim Cattrall is a great actress. We're not saying that she's not a great actress. Like her. Yeah. There's no denying that. Because
I think she gets better as she goes, and that's what happens with a lot of the craft. You know what I mean? Like even she had points in like Mannequin, which is a later, she's in a later 80s movies too. She does a better job in that movie than this movie, but it's still that progression. You know what I mean? And I don't think that, like, with how cool this movie is for what it was, going out to be, I just don't think. I think she's definitely the weak link among, the top billing of what's there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Any specific part, that you'd like to touch on that you discovered, with this?
There's the let me get up. Hang on a second here. Okay. Sorry, hang on. So a couple of fun facts that I wanted to throw out.
Yeah, please.
Okay, it says John Carpenter said that this is one of, if not his fastest tempoed movie that he's ever made. And he said that the movie is just bam, 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 bam. And I like that about this movie.
Yeah.
It's definitely a super fast paced movie. And because of that, if you've seen it enough times, it's one of those movies that can just be on, and it can just be on, right? And one of my favorite scenes, as far as fast pace goes, is when they're finally at the big wedding, and it all comes to the crescendo, and like it's all going down. No, actually, this is right before that. I'm sorry. This is right before they storm the wedding. They make their presence known, and everyone goes in and they're ready to fucking fight. They drink the fucking the magic
the super juice.
What was it? The 8 dragon spirits, whatever the fuck it was. They come in guns a-blazing, fucking, and good old Jack Burton fires his fucking Uzi into the sky, and some rocks come down and knock his ass out, and he's fucking knocked out for the whole fucking fight scene. And that's fucking the 6 demon bag. Yes, the 6 demon bag.
That's genius, right? Because like he's supposed to be the hero,
right?
But he's not. Like he's the sidekick in the hero's chair.
He's comfort relief, dude. And it's like, it's brilliant the way that it's positioned, and like it's super awesome. Like the part where like they're about to escape with the girls from the CD lockup, and he's like, okay, it's all straightforward from here, nothing but security guards and front doors, so just stick behind me and we'll be all right. And then he opens the fucking rolling door, and it's like all these guys ready to fucking kick their ass. He closes it up, and he's like, all right, I think we might be trapped. Just like shit like that is great. My favorite scene though, and this is just stupid. This is just stupid. My favorite scene is when he's on the phone trying to pull his insurance claim, and he's trying to get a hold of the insurance company for his truck, and his truck is insured by Mutual's Insurance of Sacramento. And I was like, oh shit, is Jack Burton from Sacramento? Because that fucking checks out.
That's one of the reasons why I thought you picked this movie. It was 100%. It's like it's in your area. You know what I mean? Like right. I figured there was some, definitely some local love there for you for sure.
The Jack Burton is the egotistical fucking hero in his own mind from Sacramento, trucker who's commuting restaurant goods to San Francisco Chinatown, and that completely checks out, even though the insurance company doesn't really exist in Sacramento, in case you all were wondering. That's that I totally like. Every time that scene comes on, I'm just the 916. That's what's up, Jack Burton.
One of my favorite scenes as far as movie making goes is like the first it's like the first car chase, the first car scene, to where they're coming up right on them. They're about to about to hit them, and because Jack Burton's like standing right there, and like the what's the name of the gang? The gang's in the the gang's in the car, and they're about to make their way past. They literally shot it in reverse, and then played it and sped it up. So they had everyone do all the actions that needed to be done, and so they could film it backwards, or they filmed it in reverse. So when they did it, and they edited it and flipped it and sped it up, so it could look like a high speed chase, lots of action. There's like the movie magic shit that happens with that stuff. I love that stuff. I like sop up all that stuff.
John Carpenter was definitely talking about how if they were to do this movie again, that the advancements in technology, it'd be a completely different movie. The fact that they were dealing with
the limitations of 1986.
Yeah, the limitations of 1986 definitely defined how the movie looks and watches.
You got a floating thing of eyeballs. You know what I mean? That was like, that's a practical effect. That is not computer generated. That is a shit ton of like puppetry and like all this other crazy shit.
Right.
It's nuts. And the guy, when he kind of like hulks out at the end and blows up too, like all that shit's practical. You know what I mean? Like it could be a definite different scene, you know, with technology today if it were to get remade and rebooted. But for them to be able to work with what they had and it played into the, you know, the mysticism of, you know, the powers and, you know, and that things as well.
And it wasn't cringe. You never cringed. You were fucking riding along the whole journey. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though like it's a you know, fantasticals fantasy, right? You never had you never were like, you know what I mean? Like it's nonstop. Like you're, especially as a kid, you're just like fucking with it. You know what I mean? All about it.
So while we're talking about if this movie were to be remade today, let's do that. Let's remake it. It's one of the things that I like to do, as if, you know, Hollywood's lack of original thought is widely known for everyone that consumes media these days.
One could argue that even this movie was at one time an old Western, you know what I mean, that never saw the light of day. Right.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like a John Wayne movie or you know, whatever. That's kind of what, you know, John Carpenter was kind of going for, you know, with his character to begin with, is like that kind of, you know, John Wayne kind of, you know, scenario. I think a little bit, but I supposedly, like, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has talked about interest in rebooting it and being a part of it, and John Carpenter's like, nah, like he's not really into it. I think he said it's not amicable at this time, or he's ambivalent about the idea. That's what it was. New movie or not, it's been a comic book series and everything else, but there's been, you know, there's even a video game that got released, and then, but you know, the Rock has expressed interest into doing it. But it's just kind of, you know, I wouldn't want to see The Rock as Jack Burton in this movie.
Well,
so
one thing that would be tough to remake this movie, and we actually touched on it a little bit earlier, is the social complexes involved with making that movie now versus back then.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, because there is a lot of racial conflict going on and human trafficking and all kinds of real subjects that, you know, shouldn't be taken lightly, shouldn't be joked about, right? And so, but you know, maybe sometimes you do need to joke about them to bring them to light. There's one could argue that. But like making a movie that is like big, you know, that's kind of, I wouldn't say is derogatory towards Asians, because like I said earlier, I don't think it was, but
I don't either.
Right. But you're walking a thin line these days.
Yeah, with campy stuff or whatever. Yeah, for sure.
And so you definitely couldn't have the misogynistic, almost racist Jack Burton as your lead character anymore. Like it would have to be a little bit toned down and almost not funny anymore. But as far as like what was your question? I lost it already.
Oh, we are gonna reboot this movie, hypothetically speaking.
Okay.
And we're gonna recast, you know, some of the main characters in this movie with like current actors of today. So like we want to start with like Jack Burton. You know, who do we see as a potential, you know, 2025 release as a Jack Burton? Who do we see taking that role?
Let me see. I'm Googling.
Clickety clack.
I'm Googling.
I'll go and give you time to, because the person that I came up with is kind of like a no-brainer. And you know, for anybody that watched the last movie or the last podcast, I went heavy in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I try not to do that this time, but there are definitely a couple. And if you're following, you know, if you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy, you know that Kurt Russell plays Chris Pratt's dad in this movie. So him having that irreverent kind of humor and, you know, the able to have that physicality part of it, I would probably go with like as Chris Pratt as Kurt Russell's character, Jack Burton.
That could work. Let me think. Hang on. Probably Ryan Reynolds, I would say.
That's a decent too.
Right. Just because he can do the cockiness, and he can pull off the action hero in the little spurts that it happens.
Right. He can do both, and that's why I was thinking like, you know, Chris Pratt with mine is because they can do that. He can pull off that smart-witted humor, like the back and forth, or you know, the improv ad-lib stuff if it gets to it, because a lot of that, you know, is happening today with comedies and in that movie as well.
Right.
So I think that's a good pick for sure.
Who would be your co-star on this one?
If we're going with like Gracie Law, like Kim Cattrall's.
No, let's go with the Wang Chen.
Oh, Wang Chi's character.
Yeah.
I wanted to try to find somebody that was like a legitimate like martial artist, because this guy is the hero of the movie, right? So I felt like I'm not going to pick somebody that like, you know, was just maybe, for lack of a better term, just stereotypically Asian, that I could just, that's a popular celebrity, because that to me is like, in now we see that a lot of that stuff is going away, and they're going like authentic, and they're going with like somebody that, you know, is of the part or is of the culture, like how they remade Mulan. Like there's not a very famous person. You have Jet Li's in there. Spoiler alert. Like, you know, like Mulan's not Ming Na Wen. Like she's not like Jamie Chung, who's like, you know, two of the more famous, you know, American Asian actors off the top of my head. They're going authentic for that. And so what I wanted to do was kind of find somebody that, you know, had the acting chops, so could maybe give a little bit more of a well-rounded acting part of, you know, that experience, but also is a martial artist. I chose Osric Chow. And he is a martial artist that was on Supernatural. So that CW show where they're like looking into like demons and this and that. Like he's been on that show. Okay. He's a younger guy. He can, you know, he can pull off the martial arts stuff, and you know, he's got some acting chops. So for me, he may not be like ultra stratosphere famous, but he's somebody that, you know, has the acting chops, has that stuff to go and do that.
I can't even think of anybody that could fill that spot, because everybody that I'm thinking of is like already too old to fill that spot. God, who would it be? I don't know. What does the chat think?
Did we stump you?
Jimmy O. Wang? Oh my God, that'd be fucking hilarious. Dude, that would be fucking hilarious. Are you kidding me?
Entity, I've never watched the CW. I've never watched Supernatural, but I know of it. So it is what it is. But there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that do enjoy that show for sure.
Let's see.
So that rules out Ken Jeong. Yeah, I don't think Ken Jeong would be good, but maybe he could pull off like Egg Shen or something like that.
What about like, I mean, if we're going like comedians, what about like Bobby Lee?
Bobby Lee, seriously, he could pull off Egg Shen too. He was on like my top 3 to pop in for Egg Shen for sure.
You wouldn't put Ken Jeong as Egg Shen?
Egg Shen maybe, but he's not who I picked. But if you want to talk to that, we could jump to that for sure. Egg Shen, who was originally cast by Victor Wong, aka Grandpa and the Three Ninjas.
Yes.
Rocky Loves Emily. Love that movie.
Dude, Victor Wong's fucking incredible, dude. He's in this movie even. He's just like this super fucking like the one who knows it all, has the demon bag. Like he's been ready for this for centuries, right?
Yeah, that's sorcerer shit. He's ready for it.
John Cho. I'm thinking the guy from hold on a second.
I picked Benedict Wong. Benedict Wong was in. He's been in a bunch of other things, but you know, he's most recently been Wong in the Doctor Strange and like the Avengers, like the later Avengers movies. He's a little bit larger, authentic Asian actor that pulls off comedy. He can kind of do dry humor and other stuff as well. Has a martial artist background, so I think he could kind of pull that stuff off as well. You know, and I think that would, you know, that's, you know, Jackie Chan could do something along those lines where he's older but still a good guy, because I don't think he'll play a bad guy, because that's just he's turned down role after role for decades because he doesn't want to be the bad guy.
Hold on. There's how come I'm drawing a total blank right now. I'm like a total idiot. Let's see here. There's somebody that's, God damn, how come I can't remember his name? I'm gonna find him. Give me a second, Joe. Where is he? Donnie Yen. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I think he could pull that off.
Yeah, I think Donnie Yen would be dope for Egg Shen.
Yeah, Donnie Yen's
or Lopan, maybe Lopan. But definitely he could be like the wise old Egg Shen, right? I could see him doing that. Yeah, that's probably where I'm going with that one.
I like it. How about we do David Lopan then? Who do you think you pick for our main villain?
David Lopan. I'd probably say it's got to be one of the old guys, dude. It's got to be like Jet Li or Jackie Chan. It's got to be one of the geezers just to show homage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, should pay homage, show some respect.
Right. I'd say probably yeah, he has a Sammo Wong vibe. I'd say either one of them or what's his name? God, he's the guy from Kill Bill. Chai Hu Lu.
Okay.
He's from the guy from Kill Bill. He's the main villain.
Yeah, the guy that's the guy that teaches her.
Yes. Yes.
Super the beers like. Whoosh.
Yep.
Love that guy. I picked Kerry Tagawa. Kerry Tagawa is, super ironically, he is Shang Tsung in the Mortal Kombat movies, who this character was originally derived from, being David Lopan.
That's a good call. Yeah, that's a good call.
I like him as that. I think like Jet Li or someone like they could the older guys could do that, but as soon as like I'm like, yeah, this guy's like he's still alive, he could do it. I'm like,
he's definitely Shang Tsung. That's a perfect role, actually.
I think that would be dope. So who do we see as like as Gracie Law? So like Kim Cattrall's character that not smart but not overtly smart. Apparently, I think with the 2025 reboot, she's obviously going to be a stronger, more with it kind of a female.
Mm-hmm. This is out of my scope. Yeah,
I picked
Hollywood female actors. Like I'm not a database for that. Not an expert.
I picked Amanda Seyfried. She's in Mean Girls. She's the like Mamma Mia, the girl in that. She's got that like kind of blonde, model type look to her, but she also has naturally green eyes.
Oh, okay.
One of the reasons why I picked that, she has naturally green eyes, because if you notice in the HD version, if you can watch this movie, it is very, very, very apparent that those ladies are wearing contact lenses.
Right.
as opposed to, back in, 86 when the theatrical trailer was released.
Yeah.
So I was like, I got to find a green-eyed actress that, is a blonde type, can kind of figure that role. Emma Stone is also a good one, JC. I think she could kind of pull that off pretty well. Yeah. That's a good one.
I'm gonna go with let's see, who did I come up with? I'm gonna come up with Peggy Olson from Mad Men.
I like it.
This is a random, dude. It's just random. I'm like I said, I'm out of my scope. I'm not an authority in that spot. Emma Stone, that'd be dope. Actually, I know who Emma Stone is. That would be dope.
Yeah, I think the only other person, the other two to cast is like the reporter friend, and then like the guy that likes her, like Eddie Lee's character.
That could be what's his name? Johnny O or whatever his name is. What's his name? Why am I so bad with names right now?
John Cho, maybe?
I'm thinking of a good thing I have Google in front of me, man. Jimmy O Yang would be great as the friend who likes the reporter.
Yeah. I picked Randall Park because he's like probably one of the more known actors. He's like in the Ant-Man and the Wasp. He's in Aquaman. He's in just a lot. He's been on a bunch of TV stuff. Super popular, legit Asian actor, but he's got like that kind of nerdy vibe that can kind of break through that, and it's like, kind of backseated from all the rest of the people as well.
Who's the reporter?
That's a tough one. I've kind of gone back and forth about it. I'm not really. It's a Margot. It's her name.
Who would be Margot? Let's see.
I think if we want to go with somebody, I gotta find out what her name is. In the Jumanji reboot, the girl that like is out there, I think she could probably do that role. Or maybe like Kristen Wiig. I think she could probably, do something like that. Somebody that has like a little bit more brains to her. That's not, going to upstage, your main, the beauty actress or whatever from that. I think that's a possibility. I can't figure that out. Her name is Morgan Turner. Is Martha when she plays Martha in Jumanji. But have you seen the reboot for Jumanji, like the newer one with like The Rock?
I haven't seen that one yet. Is it any good?
It's a solid reinterpretation.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think it's a solid reinterpretation.
I love
Kristen,
the original. I have not seen the reboot. That's on the list though. It's one of those ones that I want to watch with my kids, and they have so many movies that they want to watch when they come over that I get vetoed every time I try to put that one.
Awesome. I think that's mostly. I mean, we have like some. Those are like your main characters down there. If you guys would like to come and join the live studio roundtable discussion talking about this movie, you guys want to come and rip us apart for things we've said, you want to add something to the conversation, the link's right there in the chat. You guys can go ahead and join that and jump in if you'd like.
Here's a fun fact. Kurt Russell said that he had to learn how to drive a big rig in order to fill this movie out. And when the scene in the beginning, when they pull the truck up, when they're on set and they pull the truck up into the alley and like they stop, the truck stops. That wasn't where the truck was supposed to stop. Kurt could not fit the truck around the corner and decided to stop before he ran into the building. And they cut there, and they just left it there. We're gonna shoot around this. That's pretty good.
I like it.
What's up, JB? How you doing, sir? Appreciate you. JB's the homie, man. He works hard out here in Sacramento.
I see you. There's 916 all over this chat tonight. It's great to see all the homies coming out and showing up for you.
It's good look. Joshua Carl, what up, man? Everybody follow everybody in this.
I love that the studio pressured John Carpenter into going with Kim Cattrall because she'd been like that kind of like babe in other movies, because this movie is like after Police Academy. This movie is after Porky's. So like she's in both of those, and like
she's already the poster girl.
Yeah, right. So you know what I mean? Like they gotta give her something like that, and like it's funny to see how these things kind of shake down with the battle between like what the studio wants and what the creative part of the people, the give and take that happens with that. It's just it's super fun.
And Kurt Russell's defining himself still too. I mean, he's got his early escape froms, but he's also he's still breaking the stereotype of being a Disney actor at this point too. He's still kind of transforming from Disney actor to action movie person. And we all know where it went, Captain Ron.
He did kind of rebound himself a little bit with the Guardians of the Galaxy. I liked him in that movie.
True that.
Did you know that here's another fun fact for those of you guys that love this movie. The Egg Shen's office is a set piece in the same location as another 80s classic movie. Does it look familiar? It should. It's the same place that they filmed the interior shots of Ghostbusters. Super dope. That firehouse, like that whole scene, that whole firehouse is that is the same exact place that they shot that. I like when I found that out and doing the research, I was like, you know what, like that you're right. It is that it is exactly that place.
They said that the set designs were so amazing for this movie because the budget was so high that a lot of those sets were used again and again in movies down the road. And you can totally see it. They said that if you look at a lot of movies and music videos, Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson both used their sets in their videos at some point. And it was super popular for television and music video production post Big Trouble in Little China filming, which is an interesting fun fact.
That's dope. I love the final scene, the final stage, the final setting there with like the neon Castle Grayskull looking giant skull. It's just super wild. It's like quintessential 80s like deliciousness. I love that.
Right. Absolutely. The way that they shot this stuff too, like you're saying, like we were saying earlier, without the computer assisted stuff, like when Lopan floats across the room, he was standing on a dolly and somebody was pulling the dolly on a rope to make him roll across the room, and they shot it, waist up. So it looks like he's just floating. Yeah. There's actually somebody pulling him on a fucking dolly with a rope, like old school tricks like that. You know what I mean? In order to pull the shit off.
You can see that, like all those chops and like the cuts of all those action scenes. Like going back now after watching years and years of film, you're just like, that's how they did that. Like that stuff is super cool. Or when you go and see watch the stuff on the commentary when they start talking about that stuff, because like I remember. Do you remember watching like the Planet of the Apes that came out in like 2000, 2001? Did you ever see that movie? Like Tim Burton took it and like did it. How they were able to shoot them in their full like ape like gait and to be going at like 30, 40 miles per hour, and how they did that, how they're able to like the cinematography, how they're like able to put them on like a flat sheet and basically just drag them. So they're literally just going like this in place, but the inertia of them being on that flat sheet, moving with a truck, they were able to kind of like cheat the camera that way. It's like super, super, super awesome. I loved it.
All of the in-car scenes from the Big Rig were all shot in a studio, like old school style in a green room with the fucking
the cutouts and like all the camera angles and shit.
Somebody in the back fucking shaking. Yeah. That's good times, man. I'm down. I would love to be involved with a production like that, where it's just like all the old tricks, trying to pull out all the old tricks. That'd be a lot of fun.
I mean, you got the ability to do that and more sitting right behind you there, with that lovely green screen that you've built there.
Thank you. Yeah, it's that's been a lot of fun. That's been interesting.
So let's talk about that for a quick second and kind of wrap things up on the movie side of things. What do you have going on? For the people that aren't watching this or aren't familiar with you, that are watching, discovering you for the first time on YouTube or through our podcast. Where can people find you? What have you got coming up? It's time to plug, sir.
Okay, let's plug away. It's easy just to start at twitch.tv/916junglist. If you visit that site, then my channel trailer will greet you and give you more information. So twitch.tv/916junglist is a good place to start. My name is Billy Lane, and 916junglist is the channel. So just as long as the difference is being spread out there, like that's all that I really.
Did you notice that I didn't do that?
Yeah, I noticed. I noticed. Thank you. And the reason is because 916junglist has been a household name that multiple people have identified with for 2 decades now. They've been calling themselves 916junglist for 2 decades now. It's a fucking gang. And so
it's not one person.
It's not one person, right?
Community.
Right. So I prefer gang. And so
It's 2021. People are sensitive. I'm just throwing out there.
I know.
Positivity.
I'm being a dick. But yeah, so yeah, 916 Junglist, twitch.tv/916 Junglist. Come hang out. I stream every Wednesday, Friday, Saturday night. Wednesday is DJs Not DJing. That's a talk show for DJs. I like to think of it as the black belt course for DJs. We talk some really deep shit. We ask the hard questions. We try to get the tough answers. And it's a step beyond, so you want to be a DJ, right? It's one step beyond that. And anybody who's looking like aspiring to be a DJ is absolutely welcome. But the curve is steep on purpose. And then Fridays is called Talk or Rewind. That's just kind of my night to have fun. I DJ from 9:16 p.m. Pacific on, and we play games. We have a good time. I play music that I made, like original music that I made. I play music that I'm feeling. Play a bunch of different genres, and it usually ends up with drum and bass at the end, or eventually. Saturdays is called Inside the Ride, and what that is actually a drum and bass party. And so what I'm trying to do with that is provide exposure to talent. We have a new DJ every single hour, try to be a platform for DJs who want to be a part of this. And sometimes we have DJs where this doesn't necessarily provide a platform for them, but they're still in. Like my homie No Use for Anger. We've had DJ Miss Ninja on, and you're coming on pretty soon. Aiden Scott's been on. Folks that are already doing great numbers, and so we can't really provide a platform, but you're still down, and that's very much a part of it as well. Community on Saturdays is awesome. I called it a drum and bass party because we also have a Zoom room or a Zoom call between sets where you can see the party going on from a Zoom chat room perspective. In between DJs, and it's a lot of fun because you get what I call the patio talk that's been kind of missing from these DJ streams, in my opinion. You get the party where the people that are all talking aren't necessarily the DJ for the show, aren't necessarily the host for the show. It's just everybody, right? And then, so you get all this side conversation going on. That reminds me a lot of the patio outside. When there's parties rocking inside, there's the patio outside, right? And so that's what we're trying to do on the Zoomer room on Saturdays. And then so Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, 3 completely different shows, pop-ups every now and then. And always tuning into my man, DJ Darth Vader, whenever I see him on. That's the home.
I appreciate that. I want to say that with the pandemic being what it is, and we can kind of wrap up, I think, with this. You to me have moments of being very deep and very internal and very reflective on a lot of things. There are times when you're just a smart ass, and laugh at a fart joke, but you have that moment of true levity and understanding and deeper kind of stuff that I really enjoy. One of the things that I find that has been the most silver lining of all of this has become the friendship that you and I have forged that I truly respect. I talk to you almost every day. I talk to you more, and you and a few other people that are in the chat right now, more than I have talked to my quote unquote real friends. You know what I mean? That like there's someone that I have never met, on the other end of a computer screen. And the story that I'll leave everyone with is that it's super serendipitous that this happened, because we were both, hanging out in a Twitch channel, watching, DJs talk about stuff, try to learn something, or just chat and hang out. And your name is Billy Lane. Let's go. Let's take your banner off here so the people that are watching can see it. Your name is Billy Lane.
Right.
My name, I'm going to let the veil down here, because my name is Brandon Blaine. So the fact that our names are super close together, they were getting butchered by Tweak Music Tips, by Kova, during his show and whatever. So it ended up being the joke is that, we were being miscounted or misquoted as the other guy and this and that. So it was the funniest thing that that our names are so similar, but then we have kind of attached, I think, to each other, very well, and even down to the hand we write with. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you coming and spending your night with me. I appreciate the community that you have allowed me to be a part of with the 916 Junglist crew. I love those guys. I have all the love for you, sir. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you soon.
Let me get one more thing in, if I can.
Okay. Yes,
one more thing in, if I can.
Do it.
Back when I first started doing DJs Not DJing, it was myself and Audio One and my homie Evan For Real. Big up Evan For Real and big up Audio One. And when we were trying to figure this all out, one thing that I said that was going to come out of this is that we're going to meet some people that are like-minded people, and we're going to create some real lasting friendships from this for two reasons. One is because we'll identify with these people and we'll have a lot in common, and we're gonna be like, yeah, you're fucking cool. That's dope. I never even knew you existed. And that's super awesome. And two, this is an important thing to remember, is that we are enduring a hardship together. And when you come out the other side of something together, that creates like brothers at war, man. That creates a true bonding that lasts a very, very long time. We'll say for the rest of our lives. And so I am super happy that I found a true friend in all of this, and true friends in all of this. Big up to everybody in the chat too. Because that has been the true like silver lining to what was a crazy ass 2020 and what's obviously still going on. So thank you, man. Seriously, big up to you.
Thank you so much. All right, guys, this has been Billy Lane from the 916 Junglist channel. We are going to say goodbye to him, and then we're going to wrap up the show. Thank you so much for being here, sir. I will talk to you very soon. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. This has been Fader Friends, episode number 2. Next week, we're going to be here at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to bring in another DJ friend of mine, Joshua Carl, and we're going to be watching What We Do in the Shadows. I have not seen this movie, so it's going to be my first time. It's one of his favorite movies. It's a movie that he loves, and he's super pumped to talk about. So I'm super looking forward to him coming on the show and just dropping some serious knowledge for us. Thank you guys so much for being here. Please like and subscribe if you can on all the channels where it's available. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. The video from this live podcast will be up on YouTube in the next few days. Thank you so much. And if you guys want to subscribe to the 916 Junglist channel, please make sure you give him a like and a follow as well. We're going to be back Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern. And so... Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.